All right, good afternoon, everybody. It is now 6:30, and I'll call to order this meeting of the Lincoln County Planning Commission. I'm going to read this thing for everyone, so if it sounds like I'm reading something, it's because I am. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. The order of events tonight will be as follows. For each public hearing, staff will introduce the agenda item and present a summary to the staff report, The applicant will then be asked to explain their proposal in farther detail and to answer any questions from the Planning Commission members. I will then open the floor to public comment, first for persons in support of the application, and then for persons in opposition of the application. When you step up to the podium, please state your name, address, and speak clearly into the microphone. Each speaker will have the chance to speak once and should keep their comments to less than 5 minutes. Speakers are encouraged to only address new and relevant information pertaining to the item. Above all, please be cordial to all meeting participants and refrain from side conversations and speaking out of turn, or you will be asked to leave. Lastly, decisions on rezoning applications will be scheduled for additional public hearings during the upcoming County Board of Commissioners. Decisions on conditional use permits may be appealed to the County Board of Commissioners by submitting a letter to the County Planning and Zoning Office within 5 business days. All right, looks like we have 4 items on the agenda tonight. And before that, we'll do roll call. All right, Commissioner Hogan.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Enstead.
Here.
Commissioner Scott.
Here.
And Commissioner Jungling's here. Commissioner Poppins.
Here.
Got it.
Late, but here.
All right, we are all here. We'll do approval of the meeting minutes. Everyone had, or assume they got the packets from last meeting, and are there any changes, or anybody saw in the last meeting minutes? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve. Scott?
Second instead.
All right, motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Hogan?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Enstead?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
And Commissioner Jungling's a yes. All right, approving of the meeting agenda. Mr. Brown, are any changes in the agenda?
No changes, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. I will ask for a motion in a second.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion, commissioners? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Hogan?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Enstead?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
Commissioner Jungling's yes also. All right, at this time, I will ask for input from anyone in the audience on anything that's not on tonight's agenda. If you have any concerns or anything you want us to be aware of, feel free to step up. Seeing none, I will move on to public hearings. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This first item is an application to rezone approximately 6.77 acres from the A1 Agricultural District to the I1 Light Industrial District. Subject property is located at 29029 477th Avenue, or approximately 7.5 miles northeast of the city of Beersford. The purpose of this application, the applicant is Grand Valley Properties LLC. They own the adjacent property to the north, which is the home to Dakota Steel. And Dakota Steel is looking to add warehousing for their business, and they're out of room on that current property to the north, and so they're proposing to build a 100-foot by 250-foot building that would be utilized for warehousing. This building is not allowable within the A1 Agricultural District, so it does require a zoning change to the I1 Light Industrial. This is the first step, of course, is that if granted the rezoning, the applicant would have to submit a conditional use permit application for a building of that size in the district. In summary of the staff analysis, staff did identify or find that the application is in conformance with the zoning to the north or adjacent to the property. However, the application is not in conformance with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan identifies this property as future agricultural. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have for staff at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff?
Mr. Brown, when was the original property to the north rezoned? What time frame was that done?
Yeah.
I assume prior to the comprehensive plan?
No, it was part of the comprehensive plan. The original property was zoned in 2012. There's a little bit of long history to this property. The original property was, or the business on the property was originally a home occupation. And then at some time in 2012, the county rezoned the property to I-1 light industrial. Within the documents that we've reviewed, it appears that staff was recommending this to make a non-conforming use a conforming use. I haven't had an opportunity, or I have looked back, but I haven't had an opportunity to clearly define that this was a non-conforming use. Irregardless, the property was rezoned to what it is today under the current comprehensive plan in 2012.
But that was after it wasn't conforming. So you're saying that it wasn't conforming and so it got rezoned so that it was conforming.
That was the staff analysis. I haven't been able to identify if it ever was conforming at that time.
Got it.
But irregardless, the comprehensive plan at that time is the same comprehensive plan we have today, and I clearly identified it as future agricultural.
And just so I'm clear, the size of the building or the purpose of the building is what takes it out of the A1 agriculture?
The use of the property, correct. The applicants identified that they would like to construct a warehousing structure for the business to the north.
All right, Commissioners, any further questions of staff? I do have one, Toby. I know this came up last month. How is this different than last month's? Was this up last month?
Correct. So this item was tabled by the Planning Commission last month.
Gotcha.
We re-noticed for tonight's public hearing. So we sent a notice to the paper. We also posted the property. And we also sent, this time, the applicant usually sends the notification, but we did send notification to property owners of the public hearing.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Commissioners, if there are no other questions, I will ask the applicant come forward and talk about their application, please.
Hello, my name is Leonard Decker, 29007, 477th Avenue, Kenton, South Dakota. I guess the reason for rezoning is to be in compliance with putting the building up that we need for storage and for maintenance. And that's about it.
Okay.
And the last time it was mentioned, it's going to create more traffic. And I don't know where that idea came from, but it's going to create less traffic. Because right now we got to run the equipment to town and go pick the driver up. And it's more than double the traffic than what we have now. Right now it's more than double the traffic. If we put a building up and do our own maintenance, it'll help a lot for traffic.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant? I got too excited. Any questions, commissioners? All right, seeing none. Thank you again. All right, at this time, I'll ask anybody in favor of the application to come forward and speak. Okay, seeing none, I will ask anybody in opposition of the application to come forward.
Hi, my name's Ethan Ripke, and I'm at 29005 476th Avenue, Canton, South Dakota. I moved out to the farm to raise my animals and get away from the city, and not to be in a high-traffic area. These township roads are not designed to handle these large loads of these commercial semi-trucks and travel 24 hours a day. These large commercial loads cause wear and tear on our roads and create large potholes. A large commercial load should not be driving down gravel roads that are not designed for them. This causes unsafe road conditions for my fellow neighbors and farmers, very unsafe road conditions for our school bus drivers and children. Not to mention trucks hitting deer and other animals on the road, injuring them and letting them suffer and not calling authorities to properly euthanize. When it rains and we have wet conditions, farmers stop and wait for things to dry up. These commercial loads do not wait and cause the gravel roads to be ripped up and mud drug onto the highway, which causes more unsafe road conditions. Also, our emergency services are not designed to handle this large of a facility and are too many miles away to respond in an emergency situation. We need to protect our agricultural land and protect our livestock. It gets overwhelming with 24 hours a day of jake brakes, lights, vibrations from these commercial loads going right past my front window, and also disrupting my animals from causing them with breeding problems. If the applicant is granted this rezone, we highly disapprove of it. It will affect our property values, which no one is going to recompensate us for those. A facility like this should not be in this area. It should be near a city or interstate where these roads are designed to handle this type of loads and traffic. I also ask that all commercial loads be directed to Highway 11. This industrial facility, which is designed to handle these type of commercial traffic and loads. We should know about these rezones and not just hear about it through the grapevine. I am not in favor of the rezone, and I vote down the rezone. I appreciate you guys for being here and listening to our concerns. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ethan.
Perfect.
Appreciate that. All right, is there anybody else in the audience? There we go.
My name is Heidi Solem. I live at 47596 290th Street. I live at the intersection of 290th and 476. There are 4 homes located at this intersection, which is directly to the west of the applicant's place of business. I'm here to share the issues that my family has experienced with the increased traffic at our corner. The traffic to and from the applicant's place of business has brought unexpected noise, jake braking from the semis, vibrations, and lights from the semis shining in our bedroom windows at all hours of the day. My family moved to the farm from the city to enjoy a peace and quiet. As fourth-generation landowners, we know and we understand and appreciate normal farming operations and its related seasonal traffic. Traffic to and from the applicant's place of business has traffic moving at early and late hours of the day constantly. It's not unusual that we have been awakened at 10:30 at night, 5 in the morning, and honestly, it's sometimes 24 hours a day. So unlike the agricultural traffic that this area is zoned for and should continue to be zoned for, I thank you for your time, and I also would note that currently the law says that those within 500 feet to be notified if there's a change in zoning. We received no notification, and so I would request that that be changed to several miles so that people that are affected by these types of things would have appropriate notification. And I would please ask that you would vote this proposal down, the rezone down, and at minimum to reroute traffic from the semis to Highway 11, which is better suited to handle the high volume of traffic. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. All right.
Do you have your document thing up, Toby? Anthony James Ventura, 47763, 292nd Street, Hudson, South Dakota, 57034. I'm going to point out some things here, and I'm just going to go through things, and if there's questions afterwards, I'll be glad to ask or answer them. The neighbors that live in this ag district close to this rezone have problems. If you look at this past of what happened to this property before you can make determinations in good zoning in the future. In 2003, the Highway Department observed a steel fabrication was happening in this structure. April 16, 2007, revocation hearing. December 15, 278, rezone was denied. April 20th, 2009, rezone was denied. In 2009, planning and zoning analysis stated on allowing expansion of building of new structures on this property may result in adverse effects upon neighboring residences. September 9th, 2010, a zoning permit applicant says all setbacks were met. Were they public setbacks, setbacks from roads? August 25th, 2011, 04 CUP 099 stipulates no new expansion of buildings to be allowed. Some other concerns I'm going to show you is this. This is a violation. This sign is 22 inches west of the fence line and 19 inches north of the fence line. In the public right-of-way. I have spoken with the previous sheriff, I have spoken with planning and zoning, and I have spoken to the highway department about this situation. Two signs have DOT reflective tape creating a safety hazard for drivers, having their attention diverted away from the stop sign. One sign is particularly blocking the stop sign and is too close to the intersection. These type of signage are not allowed in ag or housing zones. Please refer to the 2009 ordinance that address these issues. 1601A2, 1601D4, 1608B, 1606A addresses illumination of signs. 1702A2 and 1702B2 addresses directional sign information. No parking of vehicles with signs. Is 1608A. It states basically that anything with signage or stickers on the side of a truck or a trailer can be a nuisance because it distracts drivers. And especially in the ag zone, when you come across something that looks like a football stadium at night, it kind of distracts you. 1501 states that a parking lot shall maintain a setback of 15 feet from the property line. From the edge of that door to that road, there's no ditch, there's no greenway, there's no setback. 1505B3 states no loading space shall be permitted to extend into the public right-of-way. On April 20th, 2009 staff agenda, it even states that off-road parking shall be in compliance with Lincoln County ordinances. What measures have been taken to control offensive dust, noise, vibration, and lighting? These issues, according to neighbors, have been a severe nuisance. With this property, a ditch has been removed and should be put back in place for heavy rain incidents. This could create a safety hazard on the road and can compromise public safety. Are there road haul agreements for this heavy road use? What infrastructure is lacking? Roads like Viborg Road were promised years ago to be paved and still isn't. Maybe Lincoln County needs to take over the township roads in this area due to the heavy use. One more issue, Ordinance 20.03A states, Lincoln County auditor shall also provide a copy of published legal rezone notice to the budding county at least 10 days before the hearing. Is this being done? And when I ask questions, it doesn't seem like it's getting done at all.
Thank you, Anthony. Your 5 minutes are up. Thank you. All right, is there anybody else from the audience that would like to speak against the application? Okay, seeing none, I will close the floor to public comment, and I will ask the commission for a motion, and we can discuss afterwards.
I'll make a motion, Commissioner, to approve, Scott. Correct.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Commissioners, let's have a discussion.
Yeah. So, I brought up the concerns, I believe it was last month when we tabled this. My first concern is, it states very clearly in the comprehensive plan, under number 4, rural and commercial industrial areas, there's not a lot of gray area there. It's pretty evident that, we're to concentrate these types of zonings to major highways, interstate exits, and municipalities. Concerns me when we're doing it in the middle of a township, on township roads, number one. Currently, the majority of the traffic that comes to and from this business is a county road. If we go ahead and approve this, the traffic's gonna be on a township road, and knowing that that puts a lot more responsibility on the township, and I don't think that's fair to them. It also concerns me that this is a separate plat. So today, it could get rezoned and it could be part of Dakota Steel. And Mr. Decker has said, well, it won't increase traffic, it'll reduce traffic. That could be. My concern is what is it 30 years down the road, 40 years down the road? Once we make this and we make it a separate, and it's a separate plat, it could be anything. It isn't saying that it has to be part of Dakota Steel forever, right? Third thing that concerns me are all the residential plats right around it. There's 4 of them that I can count. And currently, I understand that the Decker family probably lives in all of them. But what does that look like 20 years down the road? Maybe they aren't there anymore, and now we've got commercial industrial business right there in the middle of not only ag zone, but right around all these residents. So I'm concerned with all of those things. I think that this type of zoning needs to be more thought out, needs to be concentrated in areas where we have infrastructure, and in our cities where we have things that the services that can handle this type of business. So with that, I'm gonna vote no, and for those reasons.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Anybody else? Commissioner Johnson, you look like you got a thought on your brain.
Nope, I'm just taking it all in.
Okay. Well, I'll speak for myself also. Yeah, I agree with everything Commissioner Scott said. I do want to point out, though, that the traffic's not going to decrease and the hours of operations aren't going to change. This is a rezone. There's nothing we can do about how they're operating out of their business right now. With the signs and stuff, I 100% understand what you're saying. We're doing a rezone right here. Is nothing to address on this one. And I'm going to agree with Scott. I look 30, 40 years down the road, 20 years, and if we change the rezone now, a lot of things could happen in the future. So I'm going to vote no myself. Any other discussion, commissioners?
Yeah, I think that we need to keep the agriculture. We need to keep our growth in agriculture where our comprehensive plan says. I mean, I think if we keep deviating from that plan, if we keep making exceptions, we're going to take up so much of our agricultural land that the farmers are going to have nothing. So along with the other reasonings, obviously, because, yeah, that, it's not gonna change, I don't think it's gonna change traffic, I think it's gonna be just the same, and the emergency services, that was mentioned, and, yeah, for these reasons, I will vote no.
Okay, anybody else? Seeing none, I will do roll call. Commissioner Scott,
No.
Commissioner Hogan,
No.
Commissioner Ensted,
No.
Commissioner Johnson,
No.
Commissioner Poppins,
No.
and Commissioner Jungling's a no. Sorry, I went out of order that way. I couldn't find my list with my order. All right,
Got us all.
next, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this next application is an application to rezone approximately 2.27 acres from the A1 Agricultural District to the I1 Light Industrial District. The applicant and owner of this is Double H Land Company LLC. Subject property is approximately a quarter of a mile south of the City of T corporate limits. The purpose for this application, I guess I'll start out with this came to staff. If you recall, we've had 2 rezonings in this area with this year, essentially. And this came to our office as a complaint to identify what the use was going on there. Staff did meet with the owner of the property and identified that they were utilizing the property for what I would call storage and crushing and recycling of of aggregate materials. As noted in the staff analysis, this is not a permitted use in the A1 Agricultural District. And so the applicant identified a need to submit an application to rezone the property to allow that type of a use. And so as part of the staff analysis, we identified that this property is identified as an urban expansion area, specifically an urban expansion area growth area of the City of T. The City of T comprehensive plan does identify this entire area as future commercial area, but the existing zoning on the property to the east and to the south of this property is I1 light industrial. So the I1 light industrial is in conformance with the surrounding zonings that are there now to the south and to the east of the property, as well as the comprehensive plan, again, that does identify this as an urban expansion area. So staff finding is that this application is in conformance with the comprehensive plan and the surrounding zoning. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have for staff at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff? All right, seeing none at this time, I will ask the applicant to come forward and talk about their application.
Good evening. My name's Chris Heavey. I am a member of the Double H Land Company, also the president of Double H Paving that rents the land from Double H and basically operates on this land. I am here tonight to request to continue our recycling of asphalt and concrete. There was, I guess in my eyes, a misunderstanding back in 2016 when the T Airport had a taxi lane reconstruction bid. It didn't happen in 16, but it then happened in 17. We partnered with the grading contractor. He recycled the material that was there, hauled it to our yard. They regraded it and hauled it back. And that kind of is where it kind of took off. And I spoke to Toby about this, and also my partner in Double H Land did too. It's kind of a temporary thing there, and that's what we thought it was going to be until we realized the need in the surrounding communities of, the southern part of Sioux Falls and plus all the towns there. It was kind of a portable operation. We left it zoned ag just because we thought we would put it back and we thought that that was the right thing to do. Since then, it has kind of, just with the growth, people need a place to put this stuff. I think it's a very important thing that needs to happen. We've supplied crushed asphalt for several jobs that have been done in your county in the last couple of years by Border States Paving, and we just give the communities of T, just recent communities that have purchased from us, T, Lennox, Worthing, Harrisburg, and they've all utilized it to bring material in. I think we all can agree that that's why the Lincoln County Highway Department has went to a milling operation to put the millings on their shoulder, because the natural aggregate and things like that are depleted. And so the recycling of this material is very important. It's a cost savings to the taxpayer in the very end.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
I got a question.
Commissioners.
How long have you guys owned this particular property?
From 16 or 17, I believe.
Okay. And how long have you been doing what you're doing, non-agricultural stuff there?
Probably 17.
Okay. And why is, just dumb question, why is it taking you 4 years to ask for the rezone?
First of all, we've never had a complaint.
I'm not concerned about that.
Right.
Basically, you're not doing agricultural stuff there, so why is it taking you so long to ask for the rezone?
I didn't know I was really out of compliance. When we had spoke to Toby and said it was probably gonna be something that's portable, like, for instance, they bring a portable asphalt plant in, they'll clear some agricultural land, stockpile of materials, set the plant up, and run, and then reclaim the land. And that's what it really started off to be.
But it started off that way, but
Yep.
your intentions were to put it back to a cornfield at some time?
It was never a cornfield, it was a pasture.
Okay, but were your intentions to put it back to a pasture, or?
No.
Okay.
Our intentions were to probably regrade it like we have the other lot that we bought and use it for storage maybe, or, it's just, it got us to the township road, which was, important for our access, et cetera, for the future growth of our business.
You can see the concern, though, that you took it upon yourself to take a piece of ground that was zoned agriculture and just start doing industrial type things.
Right, I'm not saying that I'm not standing here saying I did things right.
Okay.
But I did have a conversation with Toby about it. And I obviously misunderstood what he.
All right. Did you get the answer you're looking for, Commissioner Scott?
I did, thank you.
All right. Commissioners, any further questions of Chris?
I have some.
Mr. Poppins?
Hey, Chris. So let's say we go ahead and try to get through the muck of the past and get past that, and we got to move forward. Some of the concerns are you are using Township Road 470th. We talked several times about how trucks and tearing up township roads, they're not designed for it. Is there any mechanism in which you could come through your lot without using 470th for an access point to do what you're doing? It's a yes or no question, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. What can we do to minimize the surrounding areas so the impact of the visual aspect of the operation?
The stacker is, I suppose the material's stacked 25 feet tall.
Yeah, I know the pile's pretty tall.
Yeah, the stuff that's processed, the stuff that's not processed is taller
Right.
than that.
Yeah, So I'm just trying to get through some of the issues that are gonna be in front of you to get this approved, so.
I'm not exactly sure what we could build. Wouldn't be considered probably an eyesore. I mean, we have to build something 50 feet tall.
Sure.
I don't know if anybody would like that either.
Probably not. You know, it's something visual in a certain elevation and things like that. What's your hours of operation there for this type of operation?
Our typical business hours from 7 to 7.
Okay.
I mean,
I have not been by there while you're grinding. What's the decibel level of those kind of operations?
you know, no louder than probably a backhoe or a backup alarm on a large loader or piece of equipment like that.
And out of a month, how many times do they come and grind? Or is
They come once a year.
it once a year?
This year the demand was so much that they did have to come back in July.
Will they grind for a week, or how long typically will it take?
It depends on the weather. They
Okay.
like to do it in the winter. You know, it's a different part of their operation, the company we hire. So they like to do it in the winter. Sometimes the weather doesn't allow it. They broke down this spring and weren't able to get parts to repair it, so the crusher sat
I
there.
know that feeling right now. I
Yeah.
travel to probably a dozen extra towns trying to find parts when I need it for the farm, so.
Certainly.
So,
Certainly.
and I don't know what the questions will be from the audience, but I'm trying to anticipate some of the concerns.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see this operation growing much more than this? 'Cause-
No, because we're basically landlocked.
Well, if you get this, you're landlocked. How would you be able to, or what would you do if this didn't get rezoned and you had to clean up the site? What would your alternative be?
Well, we just have to get the material used up.
Okay.
I mean, there is rubble there now. I mean, we didn't really think it was gonna take off like this, but if you think about it, anybody that's in the southern part of Sioux Falls, concrete materials is exit 81, we're 73. I mean, it's a 25-mile round trip to that recycle yard, which in a semi with today's traffic, is 45 minutes, which is a $100 bill. And,
And then you gotta move it again. So back to where the user, I don't disagree with it's a viable business. We're gonna end up trying to decide if it's the right location for that expansion of your business, so. But I think those are the questions I had at the moment, Commissioner, or Chairman.
Thank you. Other commissioners? No? Okay, seeing none. Thank you.
thank you.
All right, at this time, I will ask anybody in favor of the application to come forward. Okay, I will ask anybody in opposition of the application to come forward.
Hi, Drew Denai, 27290 470th. Hello, friendly faces, we meet again. I've been here a few times fighting the other things that have been going on around my property, cooperated with one. They're more like a nuisance, but I see this one as the main event. This is the one that honestly pisses me off the most. It's been the most detrimental to my way of life, where we are, even to our health and our safety. I don't know, right now, my blood pressure's up because a lot of the stuff he just said to you is lies. Definitely not 100% truthful. They operate well out of 7 to 7. They were grinding concrete all summer long, and usually they started before 6 a.m. The trucks are rolling in well past 8, 9 o'clock at night, and they'll even be pushing concrete rubble up into that mountain up till dark or even later. They work dark to dark. It's kept us awake at night. This spring, I came out to my house to go start on my organic garden I got in my backyard, and I walked across my lawn, and it was just solid concrete dust over my whole property. I mean, you'd walk across it and dust was kicking up, and As we all know, concrete dust is a carcinogen, so that's definitely not something I want in my organic garden. I don't want my kid breathing it. And speaking of that, you know, we have residential dwellings all around us here. I see couples walking up and down the gravel road in the evenings in the summertime all the time. Kids are riding their bikes, and these trucks are rolling by nonstop. Every 5 minutes, some days I've watched. Just a week ago, I saw a concrete truck that was a full trailer plus another trailer attached to it, and he could barely even make the corner onto the gravel road. Cars had to pull over and wait for him, and it's an operation going on there. There's a safety concern with kids and people in the area, let alone what they're doing to the road. I went out one night, I've got photos on my phone. There's potholes a foot deep in the gravel road from their trucks rolling by. If you look at the plat drawing, if you zoom in there, there's a waterway that comes through, the blue dotted line. That comes from the field to the west and goes under the gravel road and in between my property and the one north of me, and then it continues on to Double H's land. And they took it upon themselves to turn that waterway into a parking lot. They took their rubble pile, filled it in, and they parked equipment right where that creek used to run. I don't know, we haven't had a heavy rain year since they've done that. I don't know what that's gonna do backing up, but I'm not looking forward to it. This has just been a huge bit of stress around our area. All of the neighbors are fed up and frustrated with it. I know from talking to them. The guy that lives directly to the east of me, Kelly Reuter, he's had his house broken into twice now. So all the commercial around has definitely been a detriment to even our safety as far as that goes. I know the type of guys that work in the concrete industry are a rough crew, and some of the guys that work for him are not the most upstanding looking people, and they're milling around all day, and I'm sure that's probably how Mr. Reuter got his house broken into, because they know that he's not around. It's gotta be somebody that's there on a day-to-day basis watching what's coming and going, and ever since they rolled in, he's been broken into, and
True.
I know, I'm beating a dead horse here, but, yeah, please vote no.
I got a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
When did you purchase your property?
Yeah, that was the other thing I wanted to bring up. Was it 2018 or 2019? I think it was April of 2019, and when we purchased our house, there was none of that operation was there, and then of course, within a few months of us buying our house, this concrete pile popped up overnight, basically, and that definitely upset me.
Okay.
And, you know, the fact that he's just walked in like he owns a joint and not rezoned or anything, you know, it's
Oh, we can
angering
appreciate that. Second question I've got, just quick, is, you talk about the township roads.
Yeah,
Have you visited with your township supervisors about that, or?
I have not, I guess.
Okay.
But I was the one that filed the complaint along with one or two other neighbors.
Okay, very good.
On the zoning complaint.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, anybody else in the audience like to speak against the application?
Betty Yotten, 4678 7273rd Street, T, South Dakota. I actually was contacted by people that are out of town and out of state when this came up, and so they'd asked me if I would just speak. So I wasn't really prepared to, but we'll just go for it anyway. This rezoning from the ag district to the light industrial, just a few weeks ago, I believe on the property just south of us, where they went from, that they were speaking about when they wanted to go from ag to commercial, was denied by Lincoln County Commission to protect the residents living around this property. Also, they are running illegally, and there has been a lot of complaints about especially the dust. And the dust, when you go back over to Toby's planning and zoning, pursuant to the zoning zoning ordinance, Article 20, Section 2001, I think he's using the absolute wrong plan there, because it's, he should really be using the 12.07, which is rock, sand, and gravel extraction, where it never, ever, ever talks about crushing cement in there. The criteria, it goes all the way down in that plan, and it's talking about eliminating potential health risks. The county will have the discretion of requiring more or less stringent conditions based upon the location. It is also recognized that some operations may not be appropriate through all areas of the county. It also states that a hydrological study shall include all available information from the state. So has that been done prior to this? Also, a reclamation plan is required in that section, and the applicant should meet the township supervisors on the affected township to discuss repair and maintenance on the township roads. As Commissioner Poppins was talking about, that township road is absolutely horrible for heavy equipment use. There's notification requirements, and in that requirement, it talks about that all property owners of record within 1 mile of the affected property, not just 500 feet. And also down farther, it says a minimum distance of 1,000 feet shall be maintained between the existing residents. Well, actually, there's 2 that are within 500 feet. So, and then it's all of the air quality. The dust is huge for a health hazard. There's also it goes down about the hydrology, dewatering, and drainage. And they were just talking about how they'd covered all that up. The haul roads, that township road is horrible for all those trucks going back and forth. And yes, there is noise. One of the neighbors that wasn't going to be here said that it was like tannerite noise even at like 6:30 in the morning for when they're doing that. So, and then I looked it up, and it's health hazards of cement dust, and he's absolutely right. It's a carcinogen, whether you breathe it, whether you get it on your skin, for your kids or everything. So this came right out of a public health information website. So it's a carcinogen. So we would ask you to please vote no. And actually, we would ask you to make them go back and clean up the entire property and make them start from scratch. Make them clean it up, and if they want to rezone it, start from scratch. But please leave it as agricultural, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, anybody else from the audience like to speak in opposition of the application?
Mr. Chairman, I did have an email that I did place on your,
Yes.
in front of your podium, but I would like to read it into the record. And this is from Kevin Wheeler. It just says, I would only like to express some concern for the noise that occurs after hours on the Double H property. Dump trucks haul snow in the winter and dump after normal 8 to 5 business hours, often after 10 p.m. in the winter. Also, as far as the crushing concrete and asphalt, is there any guidelines for dust control? I'm required to have a HEPA vacuum for drilling holes in concrete. Not sure what or any are required for crushing large quantities. Not necessarily opposed to rezone, just a couple of questions on what all activities are intended for the R. Obviously, I've been crushing concrete and asphalt for a couple of years. This is for the lot 4 Hoffman's Edition rezone from ag to industrial. And that's Kevin Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, seeing no more against the application.
Can I ask a couple questions, Commissioner?
Yes, go ahead.
Or Mr. Chairman? Toby, I got a question for you quick. When you look at the land use map and the comprehensive plan, right there at that exit, most of the interstate exits have a 300, a full circle around them, but at that one, it's just a half a circle on the east side. I'm assuming, is that because, for commercial and industrial areas, is that because the west side of that interstate exit falls into the T expansion plan? Or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so that property or that intersection always had a full circle on it. The city of T adopted a comprehensive plan which our urban expansion area is based on at that time was the 2011 City of T growth area map.
Okay.
So that area it doesn't mean that it's not commercial industrial, it's meant to be urban expansion. So we default to the City of T's comprehensive plan for guidance.
Okay, very good. So T doesn't have a preference one way or the other, but it's their deal, not ours. That's why that's different.
Well, it's ours urban expansion,
Correct.
which is not a zoning. It's essentially just, we're supposed to look at their plan for the underlying zoning.
Okay.
And Toby, T does consider this their plan this as industrial or was it employment-based area? Is that what I remember?
So the City of T on their website has two comprehensive plans. They have one that was adopted, I think, in 2008, and then they have one that was updated in 2018. The current updated comprehensive plan identifies the subject area as future commercial property.
Okay, thank you. All right, with no more public input, we'll ask for a motion, please. And then we can discuss further.
I will move to approve.
Yeah, I'll second Scott.
All right, Commissioners, further discussion.
A clarification, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Poppins.
Toby, just for the public's understanding, this is a motion to rezone, not for the actual use on the property. The crushing of the concrete would still have to, or the current operation would still have to go under a CUP to continue such an operation?
Yeah, and so, at this time, it was just pointed out is there is a separate conditional use permit if there was mining and reclamation within the property. But at this time, we've identified that more than likely the conditional use permit would be recycling materials.
It's just so the public understands my question or point is that there's two facets to this. Is this the best use of this land? Not in reference to what is actually getting done, but actually getting a zoning clarification on what it could be. The second B is if it did get rezoned to light industrial, then the question would be, is this the appropriate activity on that property as well? So
Through the conditional use permit. Yep.
process.
Yeah,
Yep.
and which, again, and I'll elaborate on that, is rezones under state statute, we can't put limit conditional use permit that staff and yourselves would address as their health safety concerns that could be addressed through mitigation.
The point being is there may be, may have support in rezoning it because it is, two sides are already rezoned to a more industrial, commercial appearance. That does not indicate by any means that I'm voting to allow the activity to continue, so.
That conditional use permit will come up at another meeting, and then that's when conditions and or deny will.
To allow them to continue, yeah.
Because
But with that, Toby, have operations stopped since they don't have a conditional use permit?
I've had discussions with the applicant about the grinding portion of it, but as he stated, the stockpiling, there's nothing they can do with that until it goes away, essentially.
So the board question that I think that we have to first is decide, is this logical land use change irrelevant to what's actually going on there? We have to separate that out and then deal with what is actually going on that property. Today is the question of land use, not operations, so.
So, yeah, so the tough thing for me, and I agree with Commissioner Poppins, is, and we run into this all the time when we start with the rezone and we get the emotions and everything of what's going to or potentially going to happen, when really the topic is just the rezone for now. And we'll deal with what's going to happen or is happening later through the conditional use process. I'll just make a comment though that, I'm looking at the map here and no matter what we do, this is a mess kind of right in this area, and it's a good reason why when we go back to the application prior, that we need to put a lot of thought and effort into what could happen 20 years down the road or 10 years down the road, because in my opinion, we're left with not very good options here, because you have commercial, industrial, and residential all neighbors with each other. And I think as we plan for the future, we need to try to make that not have to be an issue for the future. And unfortunately, in this situation, what's done is done, and now we have to make some decisions of what the best use of this property is going forward. And it does, it fits the comprehensive plan. It kind of fits adjoining land uses. Unfortunately, there's a few residential spots kind of right in the middle there, and I wish that wasn't the case. It would make things a lot easier, but, yeah. So I guess that's all I got to say, but it does make for kind of a dicey situation, for sure.
Other commissioners, do you have any discussion points?
Mr. Chairman, I have one further question for staff.
Yes.
Toby, clarification, this parcel was replatted, do you know at what time or what date approximately?
I don't off the top of my head. I can.
Do you have any indication or belief it was pre or post 95?
I better look that up. Yeah, hold on.
The reason I asked board and members of the audience is if it was prior to 95, there would be a alternative use for this property, which would be residential, because it would hold a building eligibility at that point in time. So it would be, other than ag, which it clearly is not the best use for this land, I'm going to argue with that, is the only alternative then would be, if not rezone, would be a building eligibility. Mm-hmm. Which then again, we have now a commercial property, a residence, commercial property and residence, which is, I don't think advantageous for the county either.
On my end, I'm still thinking, I'm not sure. I know it's ag all the way around there. It is commercial, not industrial, is what I'm seeing, except for the rest of the lot. Yeah, and I think the wear and tear on the road is my biggest hangup.
I think that can again be addressed through the conditional use permit if
Yeah.
whatever is accepted there. I would hope that we could address that. And I think by our stipulations, we do have the power to do so.
Yep, I would agree.
Through the conditional use, yeah.
Yep.
One concern I have is, I mean, it is a township road, and we're here and we have, sympathy for the townships, but the townships inevitably are responsible for their roads, and they have the power to do some things to make that better between their driveway and wherever they're going. And I guess it concerns me that, I don't know about concerns me, but I would recommend talk to your township supervisors, and they more than have the ability to improve that road.
Need Ron here for that question.
Yeah.
Well, Toby, I got a question for you. When I was looking at this map, so we're just looking at the one parcel, but the one right next to it, to the east, are they using that for the same business? Is that theirs also? And what's that property zoned as?
Light industrial, correct?
Commercial and light industrial.
This portion's light industrial, this portion
Okay.
is commercial. Have talked to the applicant, the intention was to submit a conditional use permit for essentially the subject property and then the property to the east to allow recycling of aggregate materials.
But that is their operating on those two lots? Okay.
When Commissioner Scott, like you mentioned, that last application, this is a separate parcel, a separate plat also. So in the future, it could be sold off as another business.
Very good point. Yep.
Did we get a
We're
clarification?
still checking.
Still checking.
Yeah, I
Thank you.
can't get into the file here. All four of those lots were platted under one plat.
Okay.
And there was a house, this is the Denai's house here. This is the one that was just rezoned to I-1 Light Industrial for a contractor shop. That did have a house on it.
Correct.
That was removed. This one does not have an eligibility.
Yeah, there was, as far as I remember, no
What's
home
that one
on
gonna
it.
be, Toby, in the corner there that you got your cursor on?
This was the one that was denied by the Board of Commissioners to rezone to commercial.
Okay.
So these were all, to answer the question directly, these were all rezoned after 95.
Okay, so there's,
they're not lot
the
records.
alternatives either rezone it to some other use or leave it as ag. Okay, very good.
In ag, it's not gonna be able to be ag land. I mean, that's,
I don't disagree with that. So that's our question, Mr. Chairman. So
Okay, commissioners, any further discussion? All right, with that, we have a motion and a second to approve. I will do roll call. Commissioner Hogan.
in light of the situation of it, I mean, it's just not gonna be able to be agricultural land. I'm gonna approve, I'm gonna say yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Ensted.
Yes.
Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
I'm going to state this first and foremost. This is not a agreement to the operation, unfortunately, Chris.
Correct.
We have a lot of groundwork to get to that point, but I do believe it is the best use of this land to transfer it at this point or change it to light industrial. So it's a yes for Poppins.
You know, on my end too, T wants us to be light industrial or business or commercial, whatever it is. Yeah, I vote yes. Okay, Mr. Brown?
Okay, this next is an application for a conditional use permit. The applicant is Sean Geed and Tony Harris. The property owner is Sean Geed. Property is 47443 294th Street. Subject property is approximately, I'll say, a little over 3 miles northeast of the city of Beersford. The applicant, again, is to allow placement of a manufactured home on the subject property. The applicant did submit a site plan with the application. As proposed, my understanding is that the applicants have or will purchase a manufactured home that's a 1996 version that does meet the ordinance requirements as far as size and as far as age. And as this proposed site plan would be, is this would meet the minimum site or the minimum site standards for placement of a manufactured home. Per the staff report, you'll notice that staff did identify that the application was in conformance with the zoning regulations. Staff did, however, recommend that if the application was approved, the approval would be contingent on the three conditions that were placed in the staff analysis. That's primarily to identify that it will be for the placement of a manufactured home, that a septic and building permit will be obtained from the department, and that the manufactured home will comply with all requirements of the 2009 revised zoning ordinance. Primarily, we've received some pictures and some narrative from the applicant, but until we inspect it when it's placed, to know that it does meet all the requirements that are of the ordinance. So with that, I'd be happy to answer questions that you have for staff at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, any questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll ask the applicant to come forward and talk about their application.
I'm Sean Geed, address location 47443 294th Street. I bought this land 3 years ago. It was full of concrete. I believe there was a hog confinement there at one time. We've been slowly cleaning up. It's currently our hobby farm. It's kind of an odd piece of land. It's narrow. It's only 3 acres. There's a creek through it. We had a flood elevation survey, which I submitted. We already did the There's already water on the property, already electric. I just got the septic engineering plans. I submitted those yesterday, I believe, to you guys. So we have everything lined up, ready to roll. I don't know what my neighbors think, but manufactured houses, I'm a realtor. As far as resale, we've been comping them just the same. Yes, I'm buying a used one. We plan to resite it, eventually put a garage on, kind of make it look like a cabin, kind of a little piece of paradise out there. So it's a unique property, so I don't plan on spending $500,000 on a house out there, and nor, we don't need that. My husband Tony over there, that's not what we need. So like I said, we still got a lot of work to do out there, but we've been, last year, 2 years ago, we had 20 side dumps of concrete hauled out of there. So it's still a work in progress, and it's not perfect, but that's what I have for you. So we already bought the trailer too, but it's gonna be sold, I guess. So, but that's our plan. I have everything lined up, ready to roll. I've been trying to be on, Jen's probably sick of my emails by now. What I got.
Thank you, Sean. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Sean?
Do you currently live at that?
We currently have our camper out there until we figure out what life's bringing us. Tonight will be the ultimate decision of what our next step is.
All right. Commissioners, any further questions of Sean? All right, with that, I'll ask anybody in favor of the application to come forward and speak. All right, with that, I'll ask anybody in opposition of the application to come forward.
Good evening. My name is Ron Christensen. I live at 47435 294th Street, Beresford, South Dakota. My property is adjacent to their property to the west, okay? Pretty much everything that they've said about, they've cleaned it up. I don't have a problem with any of that. My problem is putting on the property a 25-year-old mobile home that needs repair, okay? They say they're gonna repair it. A little history that I don't know if maybe you're aware of or not, but correct me if I'm wrong, but you owned the acreage down at the Bob Wells farm?
Yeah.
Okay, and you bought that and lived there, which was, I think would be a nicer place to have a hobby farm for animals, because I don't know if anybody are familiar with it, but it had a cattle yard and everything, so there was infrastructure there already. They sold that, they bought this piece of property, they bought a building in Beresford, a K&K building, and worked on that, and corrected it and sold that, and now they're working on this one here. I'm concerned that 2 years from now, they're gonna sell the property like they've been doing. It's kind of a pattern, and move on, and we're gonna be left with a mobile home on the property that's 25 years old. And what's gonna happen to that in another 10 years? What's the condition of it gonna be? Those are my concerns. If it was, they were putting on a manufactured home that comes from like Madison, I would have no issues at all with that. But the letter that they sent out to us that said that this is their little piece of heaven, which is fine, because they were gonna build a house, but then they decided because of the floodplain, there wasn't room, but yet they're gonna put a double wide trailer on there, which is probably 24 to 28 wide, I don't know how long, and then they're gonna put on a 24 by 32 triple garage. There's no reason why there isn't space to build a house and attached garage and a home that would look very nice in the community where everybody else has a very nice home. So I'm opposed to it, and I hope that you have the wisdom that the previous commissioners had, was to maintain, a good community area with homes and stuff. So it also enhanced the property values and the tax values, instead of allowing it to maybe slide backwards. I realize it hasn't been the best looking property. I've lived there for 30 years. I put up with some less than desirable characters, if to say the least. I mean, so these gentlemen have done a nice job. I have no problems. I have nothing wrong. I have no complaints with them at all. But my complaint was with what they're proposing to put on there, what they're proposing to do with the property. That's all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ron. All right, anybody else from the audience like to speak in opposition of the application? Okay, seeing none, I will close the floor to comment, and I'll ask for a motion from the commission.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion second. Commissioners, any discussion?
Seems to fall within our criteria.
Okay. With that, I'll ask for a roll call. Commissioner Hogan,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
No.
Commissioner Ensted,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
And Commissioner Jungling is also a yes. Congratulations. Thank you.
And if you run out of work there, I have another farm that could use some cleanup too. So come on down.
All right, Mr. Brown.
Okay, this next is an application for a preliminary subdivision plan for the Spielman addition. The owner of the property is 272nd Street LLC. Subject property is approximately 1.5 miles east of the city of T. Subject property is 150.
West, clarification,
west.
west.
Sorry, west of city of T. And the, I should say the city of T is east of the subject property. That would have made more sense, right? Yeah. And so the subject parcel is approximately 115.77 acres in size. The applicant has submitted a preliminary plan, which staff has reviewed in conjunction with our engineering staff, and has identified, as noted in the staff analysis, that it does meet the minimum requirements for a preliminary plan submittal. The deficiencies, as noted, are that there was no agreements or covenants submitted. I have had discussions with the applicant's representative, and those are in the works. Typically, that's something that is in the works, and that we get prior. I did notify the applicant's representative that we would hold off scheduling a public hearing with the Board of Commissioners until some of those items were completed. As well as, I did submit this application to our drainage consultant or drainage engineer. So really a synopsis of this is that the Planning Commission, the Board of Commissioners will review and approve the preliminary subdivision plan. However, the subdivision ordinance requires that the applicants submit final development plans, which delve deeper into the drainage, the grading, and construction, what I'll call construction plans. And so to get in ahead of this, I did submit this application to our drainage consultant, and they identified that substantially it looks acceptable. They just wanted to see some of the background analysis, which isn't required at this time, but in trying to keep with to make sure that we don't get any red flags coming up, is that they recommend approval tonight of this, but then as I've said to the applicant's representative, that we would hold off going to the Board of Commissioners until some of that items are completely addressed. Again, it's not completely required, but I think drainage in this area is pretty critical. As far as all areas of the county is pretty critical. So we just want to make sure. This is a pretty large subdivision. The applicant is proposing 63 lots. Originally, it was 72 lots when we had this before, but it's now down to 63 lots. And the other part of this is that this coincides with the Peters addition, which is directly to the west of this. They did agree, this applicant and the Peters addition agreed to allow ingress and egress through the developments to get to the county highway on the west side of Peters addition. So there is some collaboration, some communication, which I think is great. There is, I think, 3 items that came up late with the applicant that they would like to request of you tonight. The first would be changing the name of the development. The second would be ingress and egress to the south of the property. IMEG, our consultant, recommended that there be a connection to the south property, which isn't proposed for development at this time, but it would just provide some ingress and egress. And then I can't recall what the third was, but I know that the applicant's representative will get up and will request those 3 things. But so those are things that you can ask me later about after their address. But with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have for staff at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff? So, Toby, without 100% of the information we would like, not required, but we would like, would we table it then until we get the information?
No, the requirements are met for the preliminary subdivision plan. We have a checklist within the ordinance. The only thing that wasn't submitted was covenants or agreements that might take place, like a road district agreement, homeowners association agreement. And the road district is going to be a collaboration between Peters Addition to the west and this development. So there's some things that need to be worked out. And then typically the homeowners association agreement, those are drafted by legal counsel. And so they're in the process of doing that. I think we're fine to proceed with this contingent on that we wouldn't bring it forward to the Board of Commissioners for their approval until those things are met. In addition to that, the drainage portion of it, that would like our drainage consultant to say that there's no changes in the lot and block layout is the concern that we always have as staff. But in my discussions with him, it doesn't appear that that's going to be the case. There's substantial amount of detention that's placed on the plans at this time. Just they want to see the work, how we got to that point with it. So, but I think as far as staff is concerned, we think it's acceptable for you to recommend this to the Board of Commissioners at this time.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any other questions for staff? Seeing none, I will then ask the applicant to come forward and talk about their application.
Good evening. My name is Jason Walsh. I live at 2407 East Meadowside Place in Sioux Falls. I'm the, I guess, the lead representative for the 272nd Street LLC. We purchased this property earlier this year to put a development on there. Gone through a lot of hoops to get to where we're at. And I appreciate what Toby said. One of the reasons we went through so many of those hoops is I believe we've been accommodating to every request. We were at 73 lots. We've accommodated for their neighbors to the east. We accommodated when the State Highway Department told us we only got one entrance off of 272nd Street instead of two. So we've tried to be a good, neighbor to everyone out there. We are prepared. We are going to be an HOA. We are prepared to take over our own roads because the development to the east of us, we've been told they have to maintain their own roads. So, because the township doesn't have the funds to do that, so we've actually incorporated all of that into our development. And we have, as Aaron will step up here, hired Aaron Norman for the drainage and have created, quite the pond area in there to alleviate that. The homes we're looking at will be 500,000 to $1 million plus area price range for them. So we also have today got commitment from the T Fire Department that they have the capacity for that area. So other than that, questions you guys might have.
Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
Or do you want Aaron to step up and add his comments and ask us both?
Just a quick question. So will this development be connected with the development to the east and then the future Peters one to the west?
To the east, no. That development's already done. There really is no way for us to connect to them.
Just if I may, Mr. Chairman, there actually was a road access, and then Dakota Street would have went through, but through the wisdom of my predecessors, they chose to eliminate that access, unfortunately. So,
but we have we readjusted our plan, and we are connecting with the with the folks to the west.
All right, Commissioners, any other questions for Mr. Walsh or Mr. Norman?
So that was that homeowners association that cut off Dakota Street, or?
No, the adjacent property owners had requested that it be abandoned, and the thought at that time was not thinking to the future, and they just granted it, so.
And the reason I ask that, and we've had these conversations in the past, is as T continues to grow and this area becomes part of the city of T, to me, it doesn't make sense to have a bunch of developments that don't connect to each other. It's gonna make it really hard for the city purposes, but I can see that you guys don't have a choice there now, but at least by the way the map is.
I 100% agree with you. Aaron was on the phone when we were talking with the highway gentleman that said they were only gonna give us one entrance, and I said, have you asked T if they're only gonna want one entrance to it? And that was their answer, so we accommodated it.
Yep.
Commissioners, any questions?
So Toby said there's 3 things that you're gonna ask for?
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, good evening. Aaron Norman, 3800 West 53rd Street, Sioux Falls. As you can see, I don't know, Toby, you want to put up our layout? Maybe go up a page, the grading plan, so can I get there we go. North is to the left here of the sheet, but as Jason said, we submitted an initial plan. We had 2 entrances coming off 272nd. During the review, the county didn't like that, the highway superintendent. They were only gonna allow us 1, and it had to be where the current one was constructed on a shared property line with Mr. Peters up there in the corner there, as Toby's pointing to. So in that process, to maintain all the requirements with acre lots and drainage, we lost from 70,
10.
probably 10 lots. So in addition to that, as Peters was developing in the southwest corner of our property, we had to coordinate an access for connectivity with him as well. So we met with the engineers and the developer, and we came up with a plan that ties those 2 developments together, and also worked with a common drainage along the property line there and how we can better facilitate that as well. As you can see, we kind of have 3 ponds shown on the plan, kind of one in the north, the big one in the middle, and then one in the south. Those obviously are to help pick up drainage coming from both off-site into our site, and then from our drainage. And also the pond, you know, it's gonna be an aesthetic feature, but does serve a function for drainage and BMP, or not BMP, but detention. It's a 16.5 acre size pond. And there's gonna be over 4 foot of freeboard on that pond from the permanent pool or the 100-year elevation to where these houses will be built, the lowest entry on the house. So we do have a couple culvert pipes outletting the main pond down to the southwest, which will leave and then drain onto the property, the Vanderwerf property to the south of us. We've reached out to the Vanderwerfs, talked to him about the plan. He didn't have any opposition. Bringing up my next request is that one of the IMEG's comments, they'd like to see us extend access south to the Vanderwerfs property. With that being said, we reached out to them about the comment. They were indifferent. They have obviously today, no plans on developing. It's still gonna be farm ground. So I had talked with Toby. I asked if this was a requirement or a suggestion by the engineers, and he thought it'd be best to bring it up to you folks tonight to see your thoughts on extending access south to the Vanderwerfs. You know, ideally with the concessions we made with losing a lot of lots, we'd like to probably come off the south intersection, or south cul-de-sac, and remove the cul-de-sac, and just extend that road south. I don't know if we want to discuss that before we get into the other ones.
I think we'll save.
Save it all, okay.
Okay. Unless we have a question, but you guys are open to doing that? The having access to the south for future development purposes?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're fine. Second development name, when we started rolling, we came up with Spielman Edition. We thought about a little bit more. We'd like to change it to Prairie Acres Edition, something a little more characteristic of the site than Spielman Edition. And then thirdly, in talking with Mr. Peters up there in the northwest corner, we got our shared access. He's looking at some plans, future plans on how he's gonna develop that corner. And he would like to see us, we gotta tie into 272nd where it's at today, but he'd like to see us curve that road a little sharper onto our property and keep the full roadway onto our side as we meander south, to help accommodate the plans that he has for his property. I don't think it's gonna be a significant change to the site or drainage, it's just shifting the roadway over 15 feet to get all of it onto our site, so it doesn't affect setbacks from the right-of-way onto his property. So those would be our three questions we have of the board with the plan, and then, like Jason said, we were doing our due diligence, we got a geotechnical firm out there to get us some soil logs, and we've done wetland mitigations and delineations and got responses from the Corps. We've reached out to Lincoln County Rural Water for services. And yeah, I think that hits kind of the high points of the development so far. Any questions?
So the access in the southwest corner that connects to the Peters development, I'm assuming you guys have talked to him and he's got a road on the other side?
Yep, we
Okay.
matched up to his road.
Perfect.
Commissioners, any other questions for Mr. Walsh or Mr. Norman?
I think they're asking a couple questions, Mr. Chairman, and I'll comment on the access. I too believe that we need to have at least a minimum of one connecting road into adjacent properties for future growth. I'm sure when they looked, the previous development to the east of this thought there would be development to the west. For whatever reason, it got taken out. And that's an unfortunate situation for today. It may not ever develop to the south, but at least it's a nice way for safety, access, all of that. So, I wouldn't be opposed to taking out that cul-de-sac and putting a road there that terminates on a dead end. I think that's a prudent thing to do at this time. Sure. Changing your name, I have no problem with that. What was the first one? What was the other question?
Up in Peters, up in the northwest corner up there.
That's not a big deal.
Yeah. I also 100% in agreeance that that we have access to the south just for purposes down the road. That'll make, eventually might be 100 years from now, but eventually it'll get developed and it'll just make things a lot easier. So if you guys are willing to do that, I think that's real forward thinking of you.
Commissioners, any other comments on or questions? No, I agree. Going to the south, that's a great thing to do, just for future. That's what we're talking about all night long. Yeah, and the other things is not an issue to me. The drainage that goes towards the Burma, is that the Burma addition to the east there?
Yeah, that's part of it.
To the east is Homestead Acres.
Homestead Acres. Anyway, you have some drainage heading that way. Is there going to be a culvert or a ditch between the two properties?
You're talking to the east or southwest?
To the east.
To the east, okay, yeah, there's some drainage there. It'll want to go south. We're gonna put a ditch on our property line, the rear property line, drain south into that creek. I think it's called Homestead
yep,
tributary.
I saw that.
Yep, and that's we did have one wetland identified in that region that is a jurisdictional wetland that we can't touch. So all that will remain as it currently is today.
So the drainage currently goes that way, you're just
Right.
redirecting it, but it's still going that way.
Yeah, there's two outlets to the property today, both one on east and west side of the south end of that property. Ideally, we're gonna get a lot of it to go into our pond to keep a, water flow in that pond and then throttle it out of there through some culverts, so.
Have there been any discussions with the neighbors to the east that you will be butting up to?
I had like 4 of them contact me because a failure of ours, again, we thought this was a long time ago, we failed to mow down the weeds early enough. So once I was alerted, we got that done. But I've actually had 2 of the residents that have verbally committed to buying the lots that are adjacent to their yard so that they don't have neighbors, but no one has objected to anything to me. Quite the contrary. You just said, do I have the option to buy what's connected to my property? And we'll take the first cash we get, so I'm, not offended by that at all, so, yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably want to do the same. All right, commissioners, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I will ask anybody in favor of the application come forward and speak. Okay, I will ask anybody in opposition of the application come forward and speak.
In between, I'm not really against, but my name's Don McLear. I'm at 46650 Dakota Street, just to the east on the Burma edition. I'm not really against the plan. I just really wanted to get some clarification and just to voice the concerns that I have. I have emailed with Jason, and I have been, but as I said, we're welcoming to neighbors to the east, to the west of us. We just have a history of a lot of basement water issues in our neighborhood. We had to lift our house up 6 feet back in 2010 to accommodate the water. So one, maybe just you guys sound like you got it all together, but be sure you're not putting basements 8 foot deep out there. They're not going to work. On the upper, it'd be the northeast corner of this lot. There's some wetlands up there. I don't have a way to point, but upper left of the picture. Yeah. That all, currently when that gets full, it flows to the south through our property, which is lot 1. So the second one off the top there, we're that lot, yep. The water does flow through there and then goes south, directions southeast. I'm not familiar with the southern part of our property, so I can't speak to that. But the northern part of this property, I know that there is a slough there, and it does slow the water down. My only concern is to make sure that whatever is flowing on the top of this drawing doesn't flow and affect us. I trust that you have a drainage guy hired, so that's great. I just want to voice that I'm concerned about that. Like I said, we had to lift our house 6 feet to avoid the water issues. So again, I'm not necessarily against it, but just wanted to voice my concern, and I appreciate the effort. The weeds are not actually gone, but
They're not?
No. He came and did a 6 foot swath, but they're still there. But they're dead now. But if you're not going to get on the spring, please come and do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. All right, any other application or public input against the application? Okay, with that, Aaron or Jason, could you address that question about the wetlands in the northeast draining to the south?
Yeah, up in that northwest corner, that was a wetland originally identified, and it was delineated, turned into the court, and it was non-jurisdictional, so they don't have any authority over it, so it can be graded, filled in. With the placement of our road, before there, we had another access point going out to 272nd there, and with the elimination of that, we did a curved road, so we're not planning to impact that or touch that. We're kind of leaving that as it is today. We are bringing a drainage swale up the common property line on our side, I should say, to the north to help alleviate some of that flow to get it to go south. But for the most part, we weren't planning to impact that area if we didn't have to, so.
Okay. Commissioner, is that okay with you? Any questions? Yeah, no, all I would ask is, yeah, the neighbors over there, I know they've had water issues for a long time, so it'd be really great if you could help them or not make it any worse. That'd be
right.
a really good thing to do.
In regard to the grading, we understand the water challenges in Lincoln County and basement. So we are building up our roads. As you can see, those are like 1 foot contour marks. So we are building several feet. I think we had over 300,000 yards of material we're moving around site to build it up. So it's a big project. All right.
Thank you, guys. All right, with that, I'll close to public input, and I'll ask for a motion from the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second instead.
Motion and second. Any other discussion, commissioners?
Just for clarification, with the modifications that they remove the cul-de-sac and have a through road.
Yes, I apologize.
Yep, and then the
The
other
name
two.
change, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So those are all added to the motion.
All right, we have a motion and second. Any other discussion, commissioners?
Do you guys understand that? Okay, that those are all part of the deal then if it gets passed.
Okay. Yeah, only thing I have to say is it's a big development, and myself, I think I'm personally shying away from this in the future, but it's already rezoned and it's good, and you guys did a good job. So, we'll do roll call. Commissioner Hogan,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensted,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
And Commissioner Jungling is a yes. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys, for the
Look
work.
forward to seeing it, guys. All right, with that, Mr. Brown, any new business?
Just an announcement that we will have a joint planning commission meeting at the second Wednesday in December. That'll be an application that we received for a zone change. The other thing that I forgot I was gonna mention and talk about is that I have talked to the chair and some other members about having a joint work session with the Board of Commissioners. And the way that would probably work, it would either be that we would do like a 5:30 before our meeting to 6:30 thing. And then we'll put an agenda together, different topics to talk about and some different things that we want to discuss. But leaning towards probably doing that at our December 20th meeting, if that would work, I guess. And so I'm just asking if that would work for you guys, and then I'll have to request the Board of Commissioners to see if it would work for them as well, so.
So, yeah, I'm in super favor of it, as we've talked about. Toby, the only request I would have is give us more than an hour, maybe.
Okay, all right.
We got a few topics I think we could get.
Okay, so 5 o'clock or something like that? would
Yeah,
work.
4:30, I think, if that'd be all right.
Okay.
You know, some of these things that we've been discussing on, I think it'd be good for all of us to get together and try to get some common direction.
Okay.
Yep, I agree. The more conversation, we're all on the same page, and we can bring this county in one direction.
Thanks for putting that together, Toby.
Okay, so 5 o'clock, would that work, or?
Yeah.
5, because that'll be an hour and a half or something.
Yep.
Like that, so, okay. Okay.
I won't talk too much.
So consensus, I'll request then that if we can do that meeting with that, and if that doesn't work, I think for sure that we'll do it in January, but I'd prefer to do it on the 20th, so we can start the new year. Okay, that's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
All right, with that,
To adjourn.
a motion to adjourn, we have a second? All right, all those in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Against? All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.